Okay guys, so I'm going to be showing you how to UV this Thor hammer. So we've got it split up into two separate pieces, which is the handle and the main part, the main head of the hammer by here. So if we open our, well, first of all, let's apply a texture, checkerboard texture. So right now, if I go to right click, material attributes, you can see I've got a Lambert 1 on here. And to apply my checker, I just need to click this little bit by colour, so a little chessboard area, and then click checker. And you may be thinking, why can't I see it? Well, you need to make sure that you click this button up here. This is your textured view, and this just enables all textures inside of Maya. So give that a click, and there we go. We've got our textures on. But if you look, you've got the texture on the end of the handle here, and then it stretches all the way down. So let's have a look at what it looks like in our UV editor first of all. So go to UV and then UV editor, and then it'll open like so. Let's just click the object, just the bottom of the handle. And right now we've got this texture in the background, and to disable that, just click this little file icon, and it'll just take off the texture out of the background, so it's easier to see the mesh. So let's zoom in, and right now the texture, checkerboard texture is being projected on obviously from this angle, so you can see the similarities there, which is why if you look at it, you see you've got these checkerboards sort of matching up like so, and so it gets projected on from this angle and then stretched all the way down here, and that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid the stretching. So what I'm going to do is, while this bottom of the hammer is selected, go back to my UV menu and click automatic, and already we can see that it's looking a lot nicer. So to split it up into sections of faces, so if we right click and go to shell, you can see we've got these groups of faces, and we can get our move tool and start moving them around. And obviously common sense tells us that these long pieces are going to be this sort of long handle coming out. This will be the end, and obviously this piece by here relates to the bottom of the hammer. Now you may think, oh, that's done, but no, actually it's not, because you can see on this bottom piece of the hammer, there's stretching going on, so the checkerboards are a lot wider than they are tall, almost twice the in the width. This is almost twice the height, so it's not uniform at all. So we need to solve that, and all these pieces can be stitched together. So let's go right click and start piecing them together first. Let's go to edge, and you see when I select these edges down the side, it also highlights the edges over here. So the reason it does that, if we click them, hold shift and start clicking all the way up, the reason it's doing that is because in 3D view they are actually the same edge, they just need to be stitched together. It's like a jigsaw. So the way you do that is go to the polygons menu once you've selected all those edges. So go to the polygons menu, and you can snap this off by highlighting this top bar and then just drag it to the side, so it's a little bit easier. So what I'm going to be concerned about is move and sew UV edges. So once you've got them selected, the same edge, click move and sew, and you'll see that piece is now jumped over and they are the same shell. So we'll carry on that process. So let's go back into my edge mode. Let's zoom in slightly. So you can see as I'm selecting these edges by holding shift, it's selecting the edges over here as well. So that's telling me that they're the same edge and they need to be stitched together. So let's go move and sew, and now if we go back to shell mode, you can see, especially in our 3D view, we've almost stitched all the outside of the handle together. We just need to do it for this piece. So let's have a look. Let's go to edge and highlight all these edges down here, like so, and then we'll be able to stitch these together. So again, go to move and sew, and now this is all the same piece. However, got a bit of an issue. You can see, if we highlight this again, if we look by here, we've got these faces, and then these faces aren't selected, and that's reinforced by here. So we've got a face missing there and two faces missing here. So those faces are most likely going to be on this part, and you can see that they are. There's these 1, 2, 3, 4 faces. So we want to separate. We want to get these 4 faces. So let's select the faces. We want to get these 4 faces stitched on, 3 of them by here and 1 by there. However, if we were to try and, just highlight the edges and then move and sew, it would bring this whole piece with it, which we don't want to do. So we need to separate these 4 faces from this sort of big base piece. And the way we do that is highlight these edges along here and then go to cut UV edges. Give that a click. And now if we go back to shell mode, we've got 1 shell, and now we've got this shell on their own. So we know that these pieces go up here. So if we select the edge by here, select these edges, and then move and sew, that's all fine, but we've got this extra piece on the end, which if you highlight the edge, it actually goes over here. So what we're going to do is just highlight this edge by here and separate it off. So that edge in there, highlight it, and cut UV edges. And now this one face will be a shell of its own, and we know it's going to come over here. So let's highlight these edges, like so, and then go move and sew. Now the issue is, that's fine, we've got this all one shell now, so all the way around it works nice. But the issue is, look up by here, it's curved a bit. It's, we need to kind of do a little recalculation. So what we'll do is go to shell, click it, and then go to unfold, and it'll do a little recalculation. And the recalculation, I'll be honest, didn't work. Sometimes it doesn't. So what you can do is you can go right click, go to UV, and then select these UV points, and then just select each one individually, and then start straightening them out like so. It can be a bit fiddly, but make sure you don't click, and do this one over here, make sure you don't click vertex mode, because what vertex will do, if you go to vertex and click this, you see these are actually, this one and this one are the same, they're the same vertex, and it looks like, yeah, it matches to this vertex over here, because obviously this vertex is attached to this piece and it's attached over here. So if we try and move it, it moves all of them, and we don't look at what it's doing to our mesh by here. It's not very good. So if we go to UV point, you can move each single UV point and then tidy it up. So I'll probably just move these 2 in a bit to get that straight line, and move these in to get it a bit straighter. Maybe just rotate them to get it a little bit straighter. So yeah, that's a bit better. So we've done the main sort of part of the handle that's in this shell. Let's have a check. Are the squares uniform? Yes, they are the same in the width as they are in the height. So I would say that's uniform. So if we look at this piece by here, you can see this is the bottom of the hammer, and the checkerboards are not uniform, the squares aren't uniform. It's almost double the width than it is the height. So the reason that's happening is if we look at that set of faces in our 3D view, it's very it's very long, and it's a very long rectangle, whereas in our 2D view it's not square, but it's almost there. So we need to match our 2D set of faces to our 3D. So what that means is we need to just get the scale tool and just stretch it so it's as long in the 2D view as it is in the 3D. And you can see those squares, they are now uniform. They are the same in the height as they are in the width. And they're also, make sure that these squares are the same size as the squares here, which I think they're close enough. So that's that bit done. And now this end bit, let's have a look. It's hard to see whether the squares are uniform, so what we can do is just quickly scale up. And if you come in and look, actually they're not uniform, so we just know we need to scale this. So if we scale it like so, you can see the squares are now uniform, but we want the squares to be the same size as the handle, so it'll be a bit tricky to be able to tell, but let's scale it down, and I reckon there would probably get it. So, as I said in the presentation earlier, when you export in a UV snapshot from Maya, it only exports this top right triangle. So what we need to do is select the object, like so, and it should show up in our UV editor, and then just go polygons and layout, and it'll lay them all out. It may scale them down, but it'll keep them uniform and relative to each other. Okay, so the last thing we need to do, now that we've laid that out, we need to export our UV. So make sure the object's selected and you can see your UVs, and go to polygons and then UV snapshot. You also need to ensure that you've set up your project properly, done project window and set project, all that we've gone over before. And I know it's going to save in Thor Hammer UV tutorial images, and then I can rename it to whatever I want. So I'll call it Hammer underscore base underscore, no, it's the handle, isn't it? So Hammer underscore handle underscore UV. And PNG is fine, that's what I want, 2048 by 2048. So click OK. And then it'll say saved file, C users, documents, Maya, Thor Hammer UV tutorial, images. There you go. So that's the path. Now we've done that, so we also need to do the top of the hammer. So you can see there's a lot of stretching going on. If you look at its UV, it's very kind of generic of a cube. So what we need to do to solve all this stretching and stuff, we need to go to UV again, automatic, and you can see we've got some sets of faces. So like we saw before, the reason it's stretching is these faces in our 3D view, they're very sort of long and rectangular, but they are square in our 2D view. So all we need to do is match our 2D view to our 3D view. So let's scale and outwards like that, so we can match the same in our 3D view. And you can see that's made them the squares uniform. So I just need to do that for each bit now. So I know this one is probably going to be the same. Yeah. So I'll scale outwards and kind of fix that. Now they're uniform. And I'll do the same. I know this one's going to be the same, so I'll do the same for that. So let's get that and scale. So the squares are now uniform. Okay, now that I've done that, I can start stitching together, because I know if I select this edge, it also selects that one, because these pieces should be joined. So I'll go to polygons, move and sew, and you can see now that this is one shell of faces, and the checkerboard sort of, goes over the edge. And that's exactly what we want. So again, let's highlight this edge, or this edge, yeah, and this does that one. So we've got polygons, move and sew, and we've got a bit of an issue. You can see it's gone all kind of skew-if where it's joined. So what we can do is we can try go into polygons, unfold, and see if it'll recalculate it. Doesn't really do a great job, so we'll do it manually. Let's go to UV. So we can then move these UV points outwards like so and start matching it up a bit better. And then gradually, as you start, matching these into a straight line, you will see your checkers in your 3D view start to get a lot, a lot more neater. So we'll take these ones out like so. Maybe take them out to join that. And then your 3D view will start making a lot more sense. It'll start looking a lot neater, a lot more clean. So let's highlight them. Yeah, so that looks a lot cleaner. So now the final bit is we need to stitch these edge bits on. So if I highlight, you see if I highlight this edge, let's go at polygons, move and sew. And then this edge will do the same, so polygons, move and sew. So problem that a lot of people come across here is they think, oh, these edges are the same, these edges are the same, these edges are the same as well. And if you come to this side, these are the same, these are the same, and these are the same. So that means I have to move and sew them. But then look at what happens. It goes a bit crazy, and you don't want to do that, because even though yes they are the same edges, the problem is you then start. It's not flat anymore. If you had this as a flat piece of paper, a piece of paper with these bits sticking out, and you tried to sellotape these sides together and sellotape these sides together, you wouldn't have a flat 2D surface anymore. It would be sort of curving up, and that's exactly what happens inside of Maya. That's why it goes a bit weird. So we've got a UV now. All the squares are uniform, and they don't match up by here. But if you look, I'm wearing a checkered shirt at the moment, and if I look at if I look at where my arms, the arm is stitched onto the sort of torso, chest bit of my shirt, the patterns don't match up, and that'll always happen in your models. You'll always have these seams where these are the same similar edges, but you can't stitch them because it'll start to mess up. So this is what we're working with. So the final step is click it and then go to layout and wait there, layout. And I don't know why, but let's go to object and go to layout. Yeah, I don't. Basically, it only exports this top square. So if you were to export it now, it would export everything but these faces up here. So should lay it out properly. It's probably something within the layout settings. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get my scale, select the shell, and scale it down so it fits within this top square. So you can do it manually like that, but if you've got loads of pieces, you may not want to. So now we can go to polygons and UV snapshot, and we'll call this one, we'll call it hammer underscore main underscore UV. 2048 by 2048 PNG is fine, and click OK. So that is our Thor Hammer UV'd. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you soon.